please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Would anyone care to address the board regarding this evening's agenda? Hearing none. Next item is the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the September 11th, 2018 minutes?
Yes, I'll move on approving the minutes.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is approval of the bills. Is there a motion to approve the bills?
Yes, I think we should pay some bills. I'll move on that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is bids and quotations. Gentlemen, I want to clarify our first item, the tree trimming request. We have incomplete quote documentation, so I would suggest we table that till our next meeting. Is there a motion to table the tree trimming requests?
Yes, I'll move to table.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The next item is the salt structure canopy repair request from the Public Works Department, Building and Grounds Bureau. Mr. Grove?
Yes, it comes from Public Works. And this is in regards to our salt structure canopy. We need some repairs because we have some tears in the fabric. The message there are tears in the canopy of the salt barn, that this would be to be repaired. Those tears, this vendor is the only one close enough to do the repairs and put a new canopy on the east side salt barn. All local companies contacted said they were unable to do these repairs. An inspection will be done before the work is done. Recommendation, they recommend awarding the contract to repair the rips in the salt building canopy to Log Cabin Fence Company for the cost of $3,000. So I'll put that in the form of a motion to approve that repair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions from the board? All right. Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And next item is the gas well brine tank request from Public Works Department.
Okay, once again, as you said, that comes from the Public Works Department. The message is replacing the brine tank for gas well, the old tank. It was very thin on the bottom side, and the tender suggested replacement so we wouldn't have an environmental issue down the road. It's a very important matter. The recommendation is recommend awarding the contract to Landis Well Tending for the cleaning of the old brine tank and replacing it with a new tank and all the associated plumbing work to connect the new tank for a cost of $12,300. Put that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have one question on this one. I'm looking at the capital budget request. So this is an amendment to the capital budget,
Yeah,
Mr. Chesky?
Yeah.
They're actually kind of sort of out of order, but it wasn't a budgeted item. There are, and if we go down to the next item, it explains it with the carpet. There was a line item for uniforms in Jerry's budget that had $36,000 on the line item. His actual expenses this year are going to be $9,000, so that leaves $27,000, but we're using part of the $27,000 for the police carpet. The remainder is $26,688, of which we're going to use the $12,300 for this project.
Yeah, we most definitely want to avoid any sort of environmental disaster that could come because of this, so it is an urgent matter.
All right. Just wanted to make sure we're amending the capital budget as well.
Right. I'll put it on form of a motion. I don't know if I did or not, but
Yep, I'll just second.
yeah.
All right, Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Gentlemen, also ask for a motion to approve the accompanying capital budget amendment that was attached to that request.
Yes. I'll move to approve that budget request, that budget amendment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the MPD carpet.
Yes. This comes from Public Works also. Under Buildings and Grounds, the subject is replace the carpeting in the police department. The project to replace the carpet in the police department and locker rooms with Kintex carpet tiles and the installation. This is a budgeted item for this year. The recommendation is to award the contract to South One Supply, the contract for the Kintex carpet and installation at the cost of $38,417.15. This is under CoStar's contract number 4053579. Put down the form of a motion. Just one note here, this, I believe, is the original carpet from when the building was remodeled 20-some years ago. So I think we've got a pretty good life out of that there, as much as it sees in foot traffic. So I could be corrected, but I believe this is the original carpet from 20 years ago. So.
And also, is that motion to include the capital?
Yes, I would also include the
Budget
capital budget amendment there too. Yes, I forgot to add that to it.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a public hearing on land development and subdivision plans.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I apologize. Mr. Waldner, you have an extra thing to bring up today.
Yes, yeah, we just received a change order number 1 for the Zook Park Americans with
Oh, yeah.
Disability Act project. We awarded the Zook Park ADA project to Finney and Sons in August of 2018. Their contracted amount was $10,950. It was discovered during the course of the work that there was a large piece of concrete that was in the way. Removal of that chunk of concrete required additional equipment and additional manpower on the part of Finney and Sons, 2 men for 6 additional hours. They submitted change order number 1 in the amount of $726. That would bring the total project cost to $11,676. The amount budgeted for this project was $12,475, so it'd still be under the budgeted amount. Township Engineer Ann Sokol recommends approval.
Any questions from the board?
These things happen.
All right, there's a motion to approve change order number 1 for the Zook Park 88 project.
Yes, I'll move on that change order number 1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Public comment on this item was not on the agenda. Anyone care to question the board on the item? All right. I'll call for a vote. Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right. Anything else, Mr. Waldinger?
No, thank you.
All right. Next is a public hearing on land development subdivision plans. The first is the Sonic Drive-In Land Development Plan. A land development plan to show the construction of a 3,261 square foot restaurant with associated parking and stormwater facilities located along the west line of Peach Street, south of Coombs Road, tract 347, index 750-020. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. At their regular meeting of September 4th, 2018, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of the Sonic Drive-In Land Development Plan with the following requirement: that the drawing be changed to indicate the dimensions of the existing and proposed building. Since the time of the meeting, the surveyor has picked up that drawing, signed it out, and made those changes, so those are complete.
Is anyone here to speak on behalf of this land development plan?
Jim Walka, 3200 West 32nd Street. I represent the developers, Ledge Creek Development, and their landlord, Cafaro Company, on the construction of this Sonic restaurant, which is going to take place at the old Sears Automotive facility in the Millcreek Mall.
Any questions from the board?
Well, I've reviewed it enough times there, I think. It's a pretty
Any
simple-
concerns expressed from the public at the planning commission, Mr. Waldinger?
No, there were no public comments regarding this development.
Okay. Would anyone else in the audience care to address the board regarding this land development plan? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Is there a motion to approve the Sonic Drive-In Land Development Plan?
Yes, I'll move to approve it as it's been presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the Daniel L. and Naomi J. Stutzman small subdivision plan. A small subdivision plan to show the creation of a .798 acre parcel which would become an integral part of the neighboring property. Located in the south line of West Ridge Road, west of McKee Road, tract 309. Mr. Waldinger.
At their regular meeting of September 4th, 2018, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this subdivision plan.
Mr. Stanford, I'm assuming you're here to speak on behalf of the
I am,
subdivision?
yes, sir. Mike Sanford, 4721 Atlantic Avenue, here on behalf of the applicant. It's essentially a side lot addition. One property owner would like to purchase some property from another, and so we've prepared the subdivision plan, and it will become an integral part.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Would anyone in the audience care to address the board regarding this small subdivision plan? So if you please state your name and address for the record, and also please sign in.
Okay. My name is Chuck Felix. I live at 2744 McKee Road, which is in the same watershed as, I believe, this subdivision. I'm not 100% sure. Is this right along by the gas, or the laundromat there next to the Twins? Okay. It's in the same watershed that I've lived in for 30 years now, and have been flooded for 30 years now. And it's hard for me to fathom the fact that you're even considering developing any more within this watershed.
Sir, I just want to specify, this isn't a land development plan, it's a subdivision plan at the moment.
Yes. What is a subdivision?
It's
More houses?
redrawing a lot line.
No, they're just taking a larger piece of property, cutting it into a smaller piece, and then attaching it to the parcel next door.
Okay. To where they're going to put the
Well, that's the next item on the agenda.
So should I wait until that one before I talk about flooding our neighborhood again?
Well, sir, then this is the public hearing about this specific small subdivision plan.
Okay. And if they're not building on that yet, or...
Well, if you don't have any comments about, do you have concerns about the
Okay,
line being
I'll wait
withdrawn?
until they bring up the next item on the
Okay.
agenda then.
Thank you, sir. Will anyone else care to address the board regarding the small subdivision plan of Daniel and Naomi Stutzman? Mr. Walding, were there any concerns of the planning commission regarding this subdivision?
No one appeared made comments on this during the planning commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the small subdivision plan for Daniel and Naomi Stutzman?
Yes, I'll move to approve that subdivision plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on our agenda is Townhomes at 26th Street Land Development Plan. A land development plan to show the construction of a 5-building, 33-unit multifamily development with associated parking and stormwater facilities located on the south line of West Ridge Road, west of McKee Road and Track 309. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. At their regular meeting of September 4th, 2018, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development plan with the following request. 2 traffic signal contributions, both of them for $445 for potential future intersections, or potential future signals at the intersections of 26th and McKee Road and 26th and Patio Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Mr. Sanford, I assume you're here to discuss,
Yes.
to represent the plan.
Correct. Here representing the land development plan. With respect to the traffic signal contribution, I did discuss it with the developer following the planning commission meeting, and he does express a willingness to make the contribution. I assume there's the typical form, 10-year reimbursement, those type of things, so he is comfortable making that contribution. He does understand it's voluntary, but he does want to do that. With regard to this land development plan, it's, as you described, it's for some apartment units, parking, stormwater, with a driveway off of West Ridge Road. So the car wash would be removed, the laundromat, and then this new development would occur. There is no access to Country Lane. That's a private road just west of the development, and there would be no access to that. All access would come from West Ridge Road by a new driveway. PennDOT has issued the driveway approval. We've also submitted our erosion control plan and NPDES permit to the Erie County Conservation District, and we have received that approval. We've also submitted our plans to the engineering department here at the township. GPI, the township consulting engineer, did approve the stormwater plan as well. There were some questions at the planning commission meeting, and just for the supervisor's benefit, I thought I'd just explain that just a little bit. As we do with all of our projects, we did some infiltration testing. It's one of the requirements of the NPDES permit and the stormwater ordinance of your ordinance. So we had a consultant go out and do some infiltration testing on the property. GPI did witness that testing, and it's good sandy gravel material, it's dry, and they did the infiltration testing, and it infiltrates very, very, very well. So the system we have proposed and was approved by GPI is an infiltration system. So basically that means the water from this development, buildings and the parking, goes into a subsurface system of piping. It's, I guess, for an explanation people can understand, it's like a septic system, if you will. The water goes subsurface, so there's not a visible pond or anything on the surface, but below grade there's a system of piping that the water goes in. That piping is perforated, so the water goes in and is allowed to infiltrate into this naturally occurring good sandy gravel material. The material, we've calculated all the requisite volumes that's required, stormwater volume, stormwater rate, those type of things. Under traditional stormwater design, you look at how much water run off your property pre-development, and you calculate how much runs off post-development, and you do stormwater for the difference. This property is unique. This property infiltrates all of the stormwater, and that's very unique. So there is no discharge. I understand the residents in the surrounding area have concerns. I certainly understand that. I guess what I'm saying is this project has no discharge. This project, the stormwater that's accumulated on this project will infiltrate into the native ground with no discharge. It adds nothing to the little creek ditch thing that goes along Joe's Gym. So as I said, I do understand what their comments are. I understand that, but this project doesn't exacerbate that. It doesn't add to it at all. And those are the calculations we gave not only your consulting engineer, but the Erie County Conservation District, and both of those plans were approved. So just wanted you to just try and understand our stormwater design. Beyond the stormwater, it's an apartment project. There's surface parking, garage parking, and apartments for living.
Mr. Waldinger, do you concur with Mr. Sanford's assessment of the stormwater system that they're proposing?
Yes, as he mentioned, it was submitted to us and then reviewed by GPI. They did issue an approval, and so did the County Conservation District for their NPDES permit.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Mike, currently over there right now, there's the car wash and the laundromat, if I'm correct. Is there any stormwater system there right now?
There is, behind or south of the car wash, there's, I believe, 2 dry wells. I've seen them both. They're just real
Dry
small
wells.
catch basins.
Right.
So the water does drain to those and infiltrates.
Okay.
Yes.
Was there any evidence that this could be contributing to any flooding over into the creek, or that run that's over there to the east of it? Have you seen any evidence that may have been contributing to that?
Right, I walked the property, I didn't see any ditch cut from the car wash over, because it would have to go, the car wash is on the Bennett's property.
Yes.
And then there's another property to the east, and then the Stutzman's east again, so there is no discharge to the creek from the car wash.
Okay, and no evidence of anything heading that
I saw
direction?
nothing, no.
It just goes in the ground?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And Mr. Waldinger, just for clarification, the land development plan meets all the requirements of our SALDO?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, anyone else care to provide comment to the board on this land development plan? Mr. Felix, would you like to?
As I said, my name is Chuck Felix. I live at 2744 McKee Road. And listening to this group, 2 words come to mind, called junk science. But in case you don't know junk science, it's taking some facts and drawing a conclusion without considering all the facts. Now, I don't know where any of the supervisors live, and I don't know where any of these other gentlemen live, but I can tell you there's a handful of people here that live on 28th Street, and will all tell you that since they built that medical center, our flooding is worse, way worse. And they told us the exact same thing when they built that medical center. And they'll tell you today, the engineers will tell you that medical center is not contributing. It's taking all the water from that property. But after Father's Day, when I walked over there and the flood line was 1.5 feet higher than their retention pond was not retaining 1 drop. And all that building and all that parking lot was 100% runoff because the parking lot gets full. The engineers, they build these things on, it's called a 100-year flood. And so then when you turn to an engineer, like the township engineer, and said, so you mean to tell me we've had 600 or 800-year floods in the last 2 years? And they said, well, no, those aren't really 100-year floods. That's when you get 3, 4, 5 inches of rain in an hour or two. And there's the problem. It's not considered a 100-year flood, but that's what, we don't, if it rains for 24 hours and gives us 7 inches, it handles it. When it gives you 7 inches in 2 or 3 hours, it doesn't handle it. And absolutely, before they built that medical center, we said, you can't build that there. They said, it's all got this great storm management plan. It's not going to run off any water at all. It will not contribute at all. You ask these people who live on 28th Street who get flooded every time it rains hard, if that is a true fact or not. And they have, that's the engineers who put out the numbers, do the math equations where this can handle a 100-year flood. But they're using junk science because they're using the wrong math. What's hurting us is when we get that huge deluge in a short amount of time, and they don't consider that. So all the stuff they're telling you, it's baloney, it's junk science. Ask the people who live there, ask the people who get flooded every time it rains hard. So, you've all known, you haven't done a thing, you all know they bottlenecked that stream. No one's done anything to remove that bottleneck, but you're allowing more building, and it's unfathomable. I think it's unconscionable that you people are allowing more building in an area that's already getting flooded. You have people living there that are getting flooded, and you're allowing more building. It's unconscionable to me. I don't know how, I don't know what else to do. Well, if I was Lori Hurt or Rick Griffin, I'd have some $1 million lawyer come up here and sue you, and you'd be paying me $2 million like you paid them. And you'll be buying my house like you bought Rick Griffith's house. Well, I totally am against any further development in this watershed until the storm management problem is fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Anyone else care to address the board? Good evening. If you could please state your name and address for the record, and please sign it.
My name is Maria Blakesley. I live at 4230 West 28th. I've lived there for 30 years. Since the addition of the pavilion, the medical center, I now have lakefront property, not only in my front yard, but in my backyard. I never had water come within 20 feet of my house from the back. When they built the center, they took out mature trees, 50 to 75 of them. They paved probably 1.5 acres of that property. We were told it would be the best drainage system available. Well, what happens, they cut a drain in the storm line that runs behind my house. When we get the excessive flooding, the water comes up, goes into my yard. It floods my shed. We've lost lawn equipment. I have children's toys that have been found 5 yards down. It's not only, it's the flooding, it's the mess, the sewer. I never had sewer backup. I had it 3 times in 2017. And the answer to that was, well, hire a plumber, pay for the backup valve, we'll cover half the cost. I should not have sewer backup in my house. I never had that before. The health department was called July of last year. The mosquitoes. So it's not only the flooding, it's a risk to our health and well-being. There's so much more to it. You know, I've rescued people from flooded cars. They go into that intersection. I'm told, well, we have a crisis on Interchange Road. I'm like, there's a woman trapped in a car. And luckily, the neighbors come to the rescue. It's been several vehicles have been damaged. It's getting worse, and I don't understand how you can not fix it. I mean, we're all hardworking, honest folks. You know there's a problem. Fix it.
So the 20 feet in your backyard, when was the last time that happened?
Pardon me?
You said the flooding in your backyard and the road flooding. When was the last time that happened?
Well, this year's been a drought.
Well, we've had heavy rains this year.
Well, but in May, we flooded, West 28th Street flooded twice. It not only floods the road, what happens is the water runs between my neighbor's house, and then it's running up my driveway, goes through the driveway to my backyard. This year, we just twice in May, and it got partway up my driveway, and I really wasn't, it's hard. Anytime it rains, do you know what I get nervous, I start pacing back and forth.
Right.
I have to secure anything I have outside. I've lost so much property. I mean, not only inside, antique books that were my father's, we were hurrying up trying to save stuff, and when you get sewer in your house, this year, no. Between August 2016 and August 2017, it was 6 times.
And the sewer issue was on Father's Day last year?
The sewer issue happened on a little bit on the first flood, which was, I want to say, May 1st, for that season, May 1st, 2017, Father's Day, and then in July. So it was 3 times in that period of time. Now, the township did pay to have someone clean our basement,
Right.
but they didn't pay for the trip to the emergency room the Emergicare facility that my husband had to take trying to transport all of our damaged goods out of the house. So there's a lot
Right.
that
Yeah,
goes
most
into
municipalities
it.
but most municipalities don't even pay for that. I mean, the city
Most of the time,
doesn't
but
do that.
again, that's a health issue.
Yeah.
He hurt himself,
Right.
his leg from going up and down the stairs trying to get our stuff out.
Right, and
I mean-
the sewage backup is actually required in plumbing these days, right? Mr. Waldner? Yeah, Mr.
All this,
Oh, yeah.
it's coming through our laundry tub. We don't have a floor drain. It comes in from our laundry tub. It's disgusting. And again, if we get sick over it, but we shouldn't have to live like this. We trusted everybody when that center went in, that we weren't going to have issues. We could live with, it did flood once or twice a year, but not all the way up the back of my yard. I mean, the front, on Father's Day flood, there was somebody going around from one of the departments checking on people. Well, later on I said, well, nobody came to our house. It was too dangerous. We were surrounded by water all the way around with 3 young children, age 4 and younger. And my whole family was in that house being trapped. And if there was an episode, somebody had to call emergency medical, they couldn't reach us. We were flooded front and back. I mean, we had kayaks. We probably could have got out and put somebody in one until 10 o'clock at night. And then it's bad. It's just really, really bad. And you
Just-
have a chance, you can help us and make a difference. And that's all we're asking for.
Just a quick question for you. Did you flood in the early November tornado that came through? I think it was on the Sunday before Election Day. Was it November 5th, 6th? I can't remember the exact date, but it was, remember the tornado came through here, took out this big tree over here at the
Right.
church, blocked the street,
I was
took out
trying
part
to
of
be-
Kmart, and,
I didn't know this was going to happen until my neighbor called me like
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock, and she
okay.
says, and I
I'm
just
just curious if you
feel,
got flooded over there at that same time.
we probably did. The sewer didn't back up, but.
The
we
sewer
never-
did or did not?
Didn't. We never had sewer problems. That's the thing. We shouldn't have to deal with sewer problems. But then again, if we want it fixed, we can pay a plumber and we'll be
Well,
reimbursed.
that's routine. I mean, a backflow preventer is a routine thing that homeowners put in. It's not, if your house
But
didn't have one before,
an average homeowner should not have sewer in their house 3 times.
right, and others have backflow preventers to prevent that from happening, is what Mr. Gross is getting at.
But
Yeah.
I've lived there 30 years. I never needed it. Why do I need it now?
I would say you're lucky for 30 years. I'm not trying to be a jerk,
Well,
but, I mean,
you are.
that's the
You have to be
requirement.
respectful.
So there has to be some responsibility on.
And what was added in the meantime, when we started the excessive flooding in August of 2016 is when it started. What changed in our watershed? I look out my window and I see it every day, what it is. okay? But we were promised, and we did it on good faith. Nobody, we trusted
Well,
that it would
Mrs.
be done
Blakeslee,
right.
I appreciate,
Okay.
we've given you over 5 minutes, and we've heard,
sorry
we
for
understand the
that,
comments, but do you have specific concerns about, like, anything on the land development that's the public hearing is for at the moment, for the townhomes?
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to comment on the townhomes at 26th Street land development plan?
I'm Laura Buffalo from 2814 Contessa Lane. Just want to reiterate what my neighbors had said. We have flooded twice. And I think the one question I have in listening to you guys, all of you have asked multiple times how this build is going to affect the creek next to that. And my question is, why are you asking that? Why are we so concerned about that particular area for this build? Could it be because we know that's where there's a problem that we have never, ever addressed? So why are you particularly asking this gentleman why this build is affecting this creek and that watershed?
Because we
Why are
understand it was a
asking?
concern at the planning commission meeting.
Okay, why is it a concern of the planning committee?
No, the residents came and expressed concern at the planning commission.
Okay. So are those going to be addressed? Like, we've brought these concerns that you know there's an issue with that creek. You're asking these planners how they're going to address it, although we ask you continually. I've sent you guys all emails continuously year after year after year. You'll ask him how his build is going to affect that creek, and yet you won't answer me as to why you won't fix it, because you know it's an issue. It's obviously an issue if you're asking him how his build is going to affect that creek. Okay? We all know the pipe under there. Okay, so into this planning, it sounds like it is not going to affect that creek. But I want it to be shown that at this meeting, all of you asked him how his build affects that creek. There's a reason you're asking that question, and we all know what it is. Because that creek floods our property. So this is not going, I want to know, I want an answer as to how his build is going to affect that creek. I know it's adjacent, but I'd like to see his plans and see his water retention and see if it truthfully does come near that creek. So that is a question. That's a concern
Well,
I have with his plan.
Those plans are available, Mr. Walding.
They
If you
are
want to follow
available in
Mr.
our
Walding, he
office.
can provide you copies of those. Mr. Sanford, if you want to explain again, I mean, you're welcome to, but.
No, he said it's all going to go down into the ground, and that's fine. I just don't know if it goes into the ground, would that eventually, and he can tell me it's not going to go over to that creek. But I can just see a concern in that if you guys are specifically asking about that area, there's probably an issue that needs to be addressed, and make sure that it doesn't affect that, because it's obviously flooding our property. We flooded twice. I don't have a backflow preventer, but I agree with Maria that why should we as homeowners have to put a backflow preventer in to prevent our sewers from backing up? And my other question is, with the planning of this facility, is where are all their drains going to drain into? Is it going to come into the same neighborhood that's currently having drain backup? So all these 32 homes that you're going to build, where's all their sewage going?
Western Road.
Same place ours would come from? Same backups that we're currently having, is that where this is all going to go?
As far as your sewage plans?
Like, we all have sewage backup into our basements. So my question to this gentleman is, are your additional properties going to drain into the same place I'm already having a sewage backup problem? We know the answer to that. We don't know.
The sewage for this project goes to Western Road. I don't know where your sewage goes.
Okay. That's just
Yeah,
something we want to know.
It goes to a trunk line out there on West Ridge Road that heads east and west.
Does that,
It eventually ends up down to the sewage treatment plant in the city of Erie.
but I mean, does it, because they're going to kind of be in our neighborhood. I don't know how the pipes run, so I'm asking you guys. You're the experts and you're the experts. I just
They're-
don't know how that affects our sewage lines.
Yeah, this is going to be right directly into West Ridge, I believe, West Ridge Road. The ones up in your neighborhood will kind of meander around like 28th Street, down McKee Road. They may go over to.
Do they come out to West Ridge Road though? So
They
they're
connect
getting-
onto that trunk line, and I believe that is probably a 48-inch sewage line, a trunk line for that there.
So that, where
I
their
believe,
sewage
don't
is
hold
going
me
is
to
where
that, please.
Our sewage is going, so it's all going in the same place, so that it would potentially.
All sewage
be
ends up in the
more
same place. Now, let me give you one example. Let me give you one example. Down north of West 6th Street, over near Pittsburgh Avenue, you got Indiana Drive, California, Nevada, all those down there. They've experienced sewage backups, those who do not have the backflow preventers. What happens down there at the City of Erie, there is a valve that automatically shuts when they're inundated with stormwater coming into the sanitary sewer. Keep in mind, these are separate systems. It does eventually get in there, where there are some cross connections, and it gets down through the manholes and whatever. The deluge of rain that we had in those events has caused that valve to shut. That means sewage backs up for those homes, for many of them down there, unless they have a backflow preventer. That is what's going on down there. Now, this goes back maybe 10 to 15 years ago. The Township Sewer Authority had a campaign where they would split the cost of a backflow preventer, because keep in mind, most of them, probably every one of them, did not have a backflow preventer. They're required by code now, under plumbing code, but, you know, you're trying to retrofit some of these things, and yes, I will agree, they are costly. I will agree there. So, now, if I can address one other thing here. Last week, I had a meeting with Senator Dan Laughlin and State Representative Ryan Bizzarro, along with officials from PennDOT and the DEP, about this very same matter. We are working on it, all of us together, not just the township, and we're not trying to pass the buck to anybody, to the senator or to Representative Bizzarro. We're working together on this project. We are going to try to find a solution for it. It is going to require something to be done to increase the size of piping somewhere. Will it include removing that section of pipe the township put in? Possibly, we don't know. I'm going to let the engineers, the people that have PE after their name, have them decide what is going to be the best thing. PennDOT's involved in this too. They're shaking their head. They understand what's going on. Your concerns are not falling on deaf ears. We do understand what's going on. But we also understand the fact, as Mr. Sanford said, that this is an infiltration stormwater system. It goes down in the ground. Where I live on Montpelier Avenue, I have pretty much the same thing. Water goes right into the sand. My house sits on sand down there. So I'm telling you, it's the same thing. It is plumbing. I know a little bit about that. So
Well,
I just want to, you know, am I going to, you know, am I going to, I'm not trying to console you or anything or tell you that everything's going to be fine, because you never know when our next storm is going to be. I also shudder the next time we have a storm because I know what to expect. Okay? So please, I hope you will be patient with us and understand what is going on. But as I said last week, I had a meeting with the senator and the representative. Hopefully we can all collectively come to an agreement of what to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Groh. Would anyone else care to address the board regarding the townhomes at 26th Street land development plan? Oh, Mr. Felix, we've granted you. Come on up.
I haven't seen the drawings, and I don't know if those are them right there.
That's the layout.
Retention ponds, they have a catch basin with a very small hole at the bottom, and then as you get bigger, it gets a bigger hole, and then if it gets really high, it goes over the top, and then they have an overflow section.
Well,
Whereas if the thing completely fills up, there's always an overflow section, correct?
right, but Mr. Never, I don't believe, you're not constructing a retention pond, right?
Correct. This is completely different. This is a subsurface system, it's like very tight.
It's all underground, you mean? Yes, sir. Okay, it's not outdoor. Okay, my question is moved.
Thank you, Mr. Felix. Would anyone else care to address the board? All right. Any further questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the townhomes at 26th Street land development plan?
Yes, I will move to approve that as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Before I call for the vote, I want to clarify to folks in the audience about us approving these plans. We have no legal basis to deny this plan. It meets all of our zoning regulations, it meets all of our subdivision and land development ordinances, it meets our stormwater management ordinance. So, Mr. Charlotte, if I'm mistaken, we have no legal grounds to deny this land development plan.
You're correct. Given that the developer has met all the requirements that apply, and in particular the stormwater requirements, the board doesn't have a basis on which to reject the development plan.
With that, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next on our agenda is public hearing on a conditional use. Stephen C. Lewis Contracting Incorporated and Thomas and Linda Torella for property located at 3545 and 3603 West 26th Street for adequate provisions of ingress and egress to all parking and loading spaces under Section 145-29A5 of Millcreek Township zoning ordinance. Mr. Waldinger.
At the regular meeting of the Millcreek Township Planning Commission held on September 4th, 2018, the commission recommended approval of this conditional use.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the request for conditional use?
I'm sorry, I did not hear that. Did you say you recommended approval?
Recommended approval
Okay, I'm
of
sorry, I
the
could not hear
conditional
what was
use, sorry.
going on, the activity in the back. Okay, sorry.
Come on up, sir. If you wouldn't mind, please state your name and address for the record, and please sign in.
I'm Steve Lewis. I own the property at 3603 West 12th Street. Tom Terrell, we did an agreement that I would allow 3 extra parking places that he needed in order to put a restaurant into his facility, to use my side of the street, which we actually have 10 over there. They needed 3 extra parking places in order to put people in the restaurant. That's what it's about.
All right. Any questions from the board?
None from me.
Mr. Waldinger, just want to make sure your department's comfortable that this agreement doesn't violate any kind of parking requirements for either property?
No, as long as the board approves the conditional use, we have no issues with it. It is crossing across Linden Avenue, which is a low-volume road, so we don't have any safety concerns.
Okay.
Are there any further questions or comments from the public regarding this conditional use request? All right, is there a motion to approve the conditional use for this related to this parking agreement
Yes.
for Stephen C. Lewis Contracting Incorporated and Thomas and Linda Torella?
Yes, I'll move to approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is referrals of Planning Commission of petition requesting a change in zoning classification for property located at 2055, 2103, 2111, 2115, and 2155 Edinburgh Road, now zoned RR District, asking for a change of classification to C2 District. For property located at 2335 West 38th Street, now zoned, are these 2 separate requests?
Yeah, they're
I
separate, yeah.
apologize. All right, so the first request, Mr. Waldinger, any details for the board on that?
No, this is just a referral to the planning commission for their review.
Is there a motion to refer to the Planning Commission?
Yes, I'll move on that referral.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And next is for property located at 2335 West 38th Street, now zoned R1 District, asking for a change of classification to C2. Is there a motion to refer to the Planning Commission these requests?
Yes, and I'll also move on that one too, that referral.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a new or amended ordinance under review. Referral to Planning Commission of potential zoning ordinance amendment for Article 7, signs. Mr. Waldinger, would you care to brief the board on this?
Yeah, thank you. As you're aware, under direction of the board, Matthew Puzz, the zoning and development officer, has been reviewing the sign ordinance and proposing some changes, mainly in regards to some variances that have been granted in the past. Conventional wisdom says that if there are a lot of variances for a specific item that are requested and granted, it typically means that there's a problem with your code. So we're trying to address some of those concerns, mostly in large commercial areas where there's a restriction as to the amount of signs, and we see a lot of variances come in, as well as for electronic message centers, which now are restricted in some, we're not permitted in all commercial districts. The proposal would permit those in commercial districts, as well as permitting them in a residential district for non-residential properties such as churches and schools with a special exception. So conditions can be made on those applications on a case-by-case basis. We understand that, signage and the sign ordinance has been a contentious issue in the township for the last couple of years. So our recommendation is to send these proposed changes to the Planning Commission to allow them to review them, have a couple of public meetings on them so that we can get public input, so we can revise the code before we present it to the supervisors for adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'm glad to see we're referring this and getting, hopefully get this section cleaned up in our zoning ordinance.
I'd like to clarify for our audience and for the press in the back, we will not be discussing political signs in the new sign ordinance amendment, correct?
No, correct.
This is all about more,
I think
this is
we
about,
beat that
this is
one to
about
death.
commercial signage and
As our
primarily.
current ordinance is, the proposed is content neutral.
Right. So this is not in relation to any kind of current disputes or political sign disputes. This is,
Thank you very much.
I call, we need a motion.
Yeah, we need I'll
Is there
make
a
a
motion
motion
to
to refer that to the planning commission, the sign section, for their recommendations back to us.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Crowe?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is Resolution 2018-R40, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015-R20, a municipal records manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. This is a routine action taken by the board to approve disposition of certain records once they've reached their maturity date. For this evening, we'll be authorizing disposition of MPD dash cam videos that reach their maturity between the dates of September 25th, 2018 and October 8th, 2018. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2018-R40?
Yes, I'll move to approve Resolution 2018-R40.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a grant application request, PADEP Section 904 Performance Grant Recycling Department. Mr. Groh?
Yes, this comes from Jessica Stutzman, who heads up our recycling department. The message deals, of course, as you mentioned, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, the 904 Performance Grant. The DEP Section 904 recycling performance grants are available to all Pennsylvania local governments with recycling programs like we have. The grants awards are based upon the total tons recycled and the applicant's recycling rate. Eligible grant materials include only the following items, and this has become a problem lately if you've been following the news. Glass bottles and jars, steel and aluminum cans, plastic bottles, newspaper, magazines, paper, and corrugated cardboard. In 2016, Millcreek Township residents and businesses recycled 9,406 tons of eligible materials. So the recommendation is, as a result, it is the recommended by Jessica that we, that the recycling department apply for a grant under 904 of the amount of $108,785.76 to put back into the programming, education, and events that benefit Millcreek Township residents and business in their recycling efforts. So we have that grant application there, and with that said, I would like to put that in the form of a motion that we could sign that grant. The deadline is this Friday to get that in place, to get it in, or we will lose out on this opportunity. So,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Groh, might be a good time to talk about there's been some confusion about recycling services in Erie County,
Yes.
and
We're just going to say that.
Judy and
actually,
Jesse asked us to kind of
Right.
clarify, but
Yeah.
the amount we collect impacts the amount we can ask
Yeah.
from the DEP, so we want to make sure folks keep recycling
Right.
everything they can recycle. Mr. Groh, will we clarifying on that?
Of course, some of us who are a little bit older recall reusing things, and I think that's kind of where we're going. You're not included in this, Gary, you're, okay. But the days of reusing things, we've gone away from that, and now it's caused a problem. Much of our recycling, those materials are sent to foreign lands that are no longer accepting these things from us. And therefore, this is why we have the crisis going on. In the back, I believe back there, there should be a little flyer. Take one of these with you, and it talks about what can be. It's the top 10 in the bin is how it's phrased. Number 1, cardboard and food boxes. Number 2, paper and magazines. Number 3, mail. That's your junk mail, not your utility bills. Make sure it's junk mail. Number 3, beverage cans. Number 5, food cans. 6, cartons. 7, glass bottles and jars. Number 8, plastic jugs and jars with caps on. Plastic bottles, so number 9 with caps on, and finally, rounding up the list, number 10, plastic tubs and lids. So also, but not at curbside, you have electronics that can be recycled, and your plastic bags and plastic wraps. Usually your grocery stores have that ability to reclaim those. So please, if you don't have enough information, take one of these with you. This will be posted on our website, or you can always call our recycling department for more information. But please continue to recycle. It is getting tough, but we still appreciate any effort that you do.
And so as
Did I say enough?
Well, again, just wanted to clarify for folks, there's been a lot of press from the Erie County Planning Department about changes in waste management policies. We don't utilize waste management anymore, we utilize advanced disposal. Advanced disposal is still collecting everything they used to collect curbside. So the warnings coming out from the County Planning Department do not apply to Millcreek Township curbside pickup.
Right. Yep. Okay. Did we vote on that grant application?
We did.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got lost in all the fun there.
Next item is Mr. Gross' favorite topic.
Oh, God. Can I take a break right now?
You need a recess, Scott.
I need a recess here. Get a cup of coffee or something.
The Mill Fair Roundabout.
Oh, God.
The item is the PennDOT Adopt and Beautify program application. As residents are aware, PennDOT is close to completing a roundabout project at the intersection of Mill Fair and Westlake Road, and also the Mill Fair Bridge project, which has been largely completed. As part of that, PennDOT typically requires municipalities to sign off on maintenance agreements for these kinds of facilities. Our board has been hesitant to sign off on a full maintenance agreement. We've been working with the Fairview Township Board of Supervisors and PennDOT to discuss varying ways for us to take on some responsibilities for maintaining the roundabout. And what PennDOT has agreed to allow us to do is to simply agree to maintain the landscaping elements of the roundabout. That will be hopefully completed, thanks to Mr. Grove's keen eye of catching some errors in the construction quality.
I know they got mad with my comment, what I called it.
So PennDOT will be reconstructing the decorative wall, we understand, and making some plantings. So what we're voting on today is really, it's a voluntary agreement with PennDOT for our grounds crew to maintain the planting facilities of the roundabout. That's the only thing we're agreeing to maintain today. So anything else you want to add, Mr. Shaw? Or?
No, I think that, should just clarify that the roundabout is actually located on 2 state highways, so it's somewhat unusual from the township's perspective to be, requested or mandated as they were seeking to do, to have us maintain the sidewalks that they built and the other facilities that they built there. And that's really one of the main reasons why the township was hesitant to set that precedent to be responsible for, intersections where it's 2 intersections of state roads.
Mm-hmm. But both townships did request a higher finish for the roundabout. We did request more decorative lighting. We requested some higher quality landscaping in the roundabout. So Fairview has agreed to maintain the lighting, and we'll be agreeing to maintain the plantings and maintenance to that decorative wall once it's completed to spec. That's the intention of this. Is there any further comment or question from the board?
Let me take a breath here. This will give you an idea where I'm at, which you guys already know. I do not like the fact of the township being held hostage, or whatever you want to call it. I may sound like a cantankerous old coot, but I do have a strong belief that we should not be held hostage on this. It's just like the bridge over Peninsula Drive. We found ourselves spending $17,000 for a special snow blower to keep that sidewalk clean. That was something that was jammed down our throat, if you pardon the expression. This is very similar to it. I do have concerns for our people maintaining that, because whoever it is, in my estimation, you're putting yourself out in traffic there, and whatever there comes up to be, as far as planting, shrubs, whatever it might be, I still think that our maintenance of it does cause a problem. So that gives you an idea of how I'm going to vote, okay? So, sorry. I know you couldn't expect anything different. You probably have to slap yourself if I said, yes, I support the idea, so. Anyway, you guys take care of it. Sorry.
I understand your position, Mr.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
All right, so is there a motion to submit the Adopt and Beautify program application for the Mill Fair Road roundabout?
I guess I'm going to be the one making the motion, so I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. With that, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Groh?
No.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Oh, well.
Next time we lose a PennDOT grant, John.
Over that? God.
We can still do your boat idea.
I might be open to talking then.
Next item on the agenda. Natural gas supply agreement, National Fuel Resources. Mr. Zakrzewski.
Yes, our contract with National Fuel Resources is up October 1st. And so what we're need to do is renew the contract with National Fuel Resources. Previously, we had half of our gas usage in the open market. We're proposing taking it to 75% at a fixed price. There's not the softness in the market this year as there was in prior years. Matter of fact, the city gate price used to have a negative number on it. Now it's a positive, it's an add-on, because there was so much gas in this region that they couldn't move it out. There are more pipelines now, and so it moves more freely, and there's actually a surplus that you pay at city gate, which is a change over the last couple of years. Given the fact that there's less, the prices are probably going to go up, there's less in storage, it makes sense to put a greater portion in fixed pricing as opposed to previous years where there was better chance of prices staying even or going down.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the natural gas supply agreement with National Fuel Resources?
Yes, I'll move to approve that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on our agenda is the Memorandum of Understanding with the Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development for MS4-related services. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. The township currently has a memorandum of understanding with the Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development to provide MS4 services to the township. That agreement expires at the end of this month, September 30th. Before you is the new MOU, which begins October 1st. It's for services that the County Department of Planning and Community Development provides us to assist in meeting our MS4 permitting requirements, which include public outreach and education, what's known as good housekeeping training of township staff, and technical work that will take our paper storm sewer as-built and add them to the GIS. The cost of these services is $100 for the education and document management portion and $1,000 for $300 of GIS work. There's also a provision in the MOU to provide an additional work beyond the 300 hours at a rate of $10 an hour. My recommendation is that the services provided by the department directly fulfill requirements for our MS4 permitting. Specifically, the education and training components are things that are not specific to Millcreek Township that are regional, and so it's better handled on a regional basis. The GIS services they perform are a great benefit to us because they have staff with more capacity than we do and can complete the work much quicker. The payment for this MOU to the county will not be due until October of 2019. So I have placed the funds for this MOU in my 2019 budget to cover the expense. I would recommend that you approve the MOU and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the MOU with the Erie County Planning and Community Development Department for MS4 services.
Yes, I'll move to approve that agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the Presque Isle Garden Club request for a Blue Star marker at Veterans Park. Mr. Grove?
Yes, this comes from Ashley Marsteller, our Director of Parks and Recreation. This is in reply to a letter asking permission by the, let's see, I'm sorry, give me a second to find the garden club. Presque Isle Garden Club. They would like to place a Blue Star byway marker at Veterans Park. And, of course, the Blue Star markers, for those who are not familiar, are seen along busy highways and rest areas to honor all veterans from all wars. Most of them have been placed by garden clubs. The byway marker that they're looking at is smaller and would be attached to a rock or a wall or something. It's 12 by 20 inches. They're asking for permission and support, a letter of support saying that they can do that before they can have this, this made up for the Veterans Park. These one that they're talking about, it costs $490, which includes the shipping. Of course, they're not asking us to help, with the cost of it, but they're asking if for the permission to place that there. I'm going to make a motion that we send a letter authorizing the Presque Isle Garden Club to go ahead and proceed with that. And of course, before they actually install it, we would like to see everything and then make sure it's put in the proper location to honor our veterans, in the proper fashion there. So, with that said, I am going to make a motion to approve that letter, if I could.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, if I could just real quickly, I think also there, at least if the letter to Ms. Marsteller references a request that the township move a rock that they've identified on site to the location and make sure that the ground is level and so forth. So they are requesting at least some manpower assistance
service, yeah.
from the township in order to accomplish this. I think we should mention that.
Yes, I'll amend my motion to include that in there. I'm sorry. Thanks for pointing that out to me, Mark.
Sure.
Yep. So with that amendment there, I still continue with my motion.
You second the amendment, Mr. Bach?
I'll second the amendment, yes.
All right, with that, call for the vote. Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Okay.
Next is communications. Mr. Duchesky, anything else to add today, sir?
Just a couple brief things here. We received the Firemen's Relief Funds from the from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They amounted to $288,419.42. That's about $30,000 less than budget, but this is just a pass-through, so our expense on the other end is going to be equally below budget. So it's the fact that it's less is not going to affect the ledger or the general fund at all. Also, we received notice, and I'm soon to get the amount here. Oops, too far. We received our state aid for the pension plan. That totaled $1,072,724.97. That's based on unit values. There's a double unit value for, in our case, police officers, but it would be firefighters as well if we had paid firefighters, and a single unit for township employees. The split was roughly $520,000 for township pension aid from the state, and the balance $552,000 was for police pension. Those checks will be cut soon so that they go into the pension plan, but they were about $80,000 higher than we had budgeted. So that's to our good.
Thanks for the good news, Mark.
Yes.
Next is the fall season staff request approval from Parks and Recreation. Mr. Grove.
Yes. I have a list of employees here. This comes from Ashley Marsteller, Director of our Parks Department. Employee approval. She would like to have the following employees approved for the fall season 2018, and of course, the classes have already begun, so this is kind of a retroactive action. We have a total of 26 part-time employees. Their pay rates are listed on there. I see the one person there is a yoga substitute. There was a zero included on that. That should have been $9.35 an hour, not $9,350. Anyway, there's also, like I said, 26 paid employees, and there are also 12 volunteers. I'd like to appoint all those people for the positions for this fall season of recreation activities. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
As long as Ash is not asking for $9,000, I mean, maybe it's the best instructor, I don't know. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Buck?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Travel request from Mr. Grove.
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Let's see, the of course comes from me. I've been request authorization to attend the upcoming Pennsylvania Municipal League Annual Summit in Cranberry Township. I forgot to put in there, this will be at the Pittsburgh North Marriott. Their conference goes from Wednesday through Saturday, but I've been invited to just attend the Friday session. The invitation to attend is complimentary from PML and is no cost to the township. Township vehicle use may be needed unless we need it for somebody else here at that time. So I just want to put that qualifying statement on there. So if I could ask for approval for that, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Roy, I know you've been kind of advocating we get involved with PML. Would there be a benefit to Mr. Bach and I attending this conference as well?
Oh, yes,
or is
that would be a great idea. I'm sure that's extended to all of us. So if you want to make all three of us, we can do that. I can amend that to include all three of us.
I don't know if I can personally make it, maybe conditionally.
But
Mr.
maybe,
Bach, if you'd
Jim,
like to
do you
go as
think you
well.
might be able to go?
When is it?
Friday, October 5th.
Next
And
Friday.
I'm probably going to go down, probably leave here at 8 o'clock in the morning, get down there at 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. It's in Cranberry is where it's located at, so.
It's a day down and back.
Yeah, oh yeah, just go down there.
I'm not sure if I can go, but
Okay.
could we approve it and then?
Yeah, if we can just leave it that way, and then, whoever wants to go, we can do it. So I'll put on there, township supervisor and two more, or other employees, that might be interested. So,
All right,
Okay.
is there a second to approve the travel request for the board to attend the PML conference in Cranberry Township, October 5th? Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, Mr. Grove?
Vote yes?
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the MPD request.
Okay. We have a request from Chief Scott Height. This is to replace a server in the police department that failed. It was not functioning, and Chris Filson from the PD, the IT, recommends that this server be replaced. This is a vital piece of equipment that interfaces between the patrol officer's mobile computer and dispatch. And due to this server failing, you can no longer retrieve data such as wanted person or a stolen vehicle from the vehicle. So this is an officer safety issue. After hearing Chief Height and Chris Filson describe this, I know how vital this is to their safety out in the field. So I concurred with them that this is a necessary repair. So they'd be looking at an agreement with Tyler Technologies for this repair. $6,850 is the quote. I believe, Mr. Shaw, you've reviewed this as well?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put that request in the form of a motion.
I'll second.
With the accompanying capital budget amendment as well?
Yes, and I believe, that amendment was on here?
Yes.
I believe
Yeah,
I
it is.
saw
It's
it earlier.
included.
Okay, yes, and the accompanying capital budget amendment.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? I guess my only question is for Mr. Krzyzewski. We're drawing down from the county 911 radio system line. Are those funds that we don't anticipate to expend this year
Oh, no, we're not going to spend those at all this year. None of them.
because of a delay in the
And
county?
the county's delay, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was set up by that agreement that was approved, that the payment was going to be moved to next year for that, so.
All right. Fortunate for the server. All right. I'll call for a vote then. Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next on the communications, the executive session. The board did hold an executive session on September 18th with our solicitor and executive team to discuss various legal and personnel matters. Just to inform the public that meeting, that executive session was held. Next is solicitor communications. Mr. Shaw.
Nothing to report.
All right. And Mr. Waldron, I believe you have one more thing you wanted to mention to us this evening.
Yes, thank you. I've contacted Beth McLaughlin at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center regarding use of room 112 to host Millcreek's 2 days of the National Development Council training. Fee for rental of the room was graciously waived by Matt Green, the park operations manager. Unfortunately, Trek does not allow outside food and beverages. We'd like to provide the attendees with some coffee and drinks and light refreshments. And using their required Sunset Cafe, that bill would total $800 for the 2 days. We'd like to seek the board's approval and the chairman's signature on both the room rental contract and the food and beverage supplement. I would recommend that these contracts be approved. We definitely appreciate Mr. Green waiving the room rental fee for the room itself. The attendees include many local business people and finance professionals who are donating their time to come to this training, and we feel that providing them with some coffee and things while they sit through the classes is appropriate.
And that's coming out of your travel and training budget, or
Yes, there is money in our budget, in our planning commission line item that we haven't used and don't anticipate.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Not for me.
I'll just add that we had our first round of training. The city of Erie hosted the first round, and actually Gannon University provided the space. That was last week. We got some good coverage on it. It was an opportunity for Mr. Walder and his staff, myself, and Joe Schembers, planning and economic development professionals, as well as Mr. Walder stated, private developers, banking institutions to kind of work together and start learning a little more about some creative financing mechanisms that are available and other metro areas have used to spur development in their areas. So I think it was a productive time. We're looking forward to hosting our half of that training in October. With that, is there a motion to approve the rental for the Tom Ridge Environmental Center and accompanying refreshment bill not to exceed $800?
Yes, I'll move on both of those actions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
Yes?
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
I apologize. Mr. Shaw, you didn't catch me. Is there any public comment on this before the final vote?
I think we have something.
Can I ask a question, or were you talking before I approached you?
About this contract?
Oh, no, excuse me. Not about that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Citizens be heard.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up next year.
I apologize.
All right, with that, no questions from the public. I will vote yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Citizens to be heard.
What do you think? You want to talk to me after the meeting?
I can catch you after the meeting if you like, Jerry.
I hope you have an answer.
Somewhat.
And Mr., how do you pronounce your last name, Mark?
Zach
Do you
Chesky?
recommend buying stock in National Fuel then if the prices are going to go up? Yeah, it's just a question.
Different company, isn't it?
National, yeah, they're actually distribution. National Fuel, well, they're probably sister companies. National Fuel Resources is a different company than National Fuel Gas.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Any other questions or comments from the public for the board? Gary? All right. Anything else to go to the order, gentlemen? With that, is there a motion to adjourn at 8:13?
I'll move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.